There is strength in unity. If you take a look at our Haudenosaunee principles, take a look at those 5 arrows, those first original 5 arrows. There is strength in unity. And when you break that apart, we are not as strong as we can be. And I believe if we really begin to think back on our original principles and why we are there to educate our children the way we want our children to be educated, even today at the national level, you see that whole theme of Indigenous educational sovereignty. We want our children to be able to succeed in that dominant society, but we also want them to be able to know what it means to be a Seneca, to be a Mohawk, to be an Onondaga, Shinnecock, Puspatuk, Cayuga, Oneida, Tuscarora, okay, or whatever Indigenous group is in New York State. We want them to be like 200%, both. If we don't have that kind of state association where we come together on a regular basis to advocate for one another, then our voices are going to continue not to be heard. Not to be heard for our Native students, not to be heard for our communities, okay, present and also for future generations.
With the language, we don't have anything, there's nothing in New York State or in Ontario for that matter. But Naieany New York is, of course, advocating for New York State to recognize our language is not just Mohawk, but our language is as a qualified language for students to take instead of French or Spanish, to get their New York State Regents diploma. This organization, for 30 years has been advocating for them and for their children.
I have a house full of kids. I have 7, and when they were growing up, I was always on the parent committees, and my older boys, they went to Stockbridge, so they worked with Monica when she was working with the Native program at Stockbridge. So I was on the parent committee there, and then I got a job working for Oneida Nation in the education department, again, really because of my kids. I had so many of them. I enjoy being able to be in a position where I'm kind of helping our Indigenous youth with their education. It's one of the reasons why I really love my job at SU, because I get to go out specifically to recruit Haudenosaunee students and other Indigenous students and really let them know what their opportunities are out in the world. With this organization in particular, I just kind of went as attendee first couple times, and I enjoyed networking. I enjoyed meeting the new people and really kind of hearing about the different issues in New York State that are affecting all of our kids.
I've been treasurer for quite a few years now.
Forever.
Not even sure how long. In 1993, I was part of the parent committee at Stockbridge. I've got 4 kids and had 4 kids in school. And from there, I worked into the point of actually being the teacher for the program itself. So I was in school working with all the students for about 15 years. And during that time, we started going to the conferences themselves and learning so much about other things that could help the students and the way the programs were run at different schools. With the scholarships that the NAIA has offered to the students heading out of high school, going to college, we have 2 different levels, undergraduate and graduate. Both of us get to read all the different scholarship applications and really pinpoint where it is needed and where it's going to probably come back to the community after the fact when the student is going for something like education or even nursing, and some of those things still come back to our community, and the scholarships really help a student better themselves that way.
That's where I started, really watching my mother, Marlene, and her very good friend, Minerva White from Akwesasne, those two women working together. And when you talk about the strength of our Native women, they were exemplars of that. They really pulled everybody together from across the state and did that for a number of years. That's the importance of an association. We want things to be better for our children. And I think that if everybody were to sit down and actually think about their own personal experiences, they would come up with more than one reason why we need to continue to come together and continue to help each other for the betterment of our own people. Not to be selfish, but no one else is going to do it for us.
Minerva White was one of the first people I met who ran that unit. I got to visit a few times, and she would report. Then and Adrian Cook took on that position until he retired. He would always report, and he would let us know some of the troubling as well as some of the very positive bits of news related to Native education. Among those types of things was like how many students were getting into colleges and staying in colleges and going on for graduate study. So all of those were important for us to hear. A good number of the members are public school teachers, but there are representatives from the colleges also. So for the public school teachers to know that some of the efforts are now getting the students into college, and then college people are talking about how do we support the students who are in the colleges so that they stay in and go on even maybe for graduate degrees.
You know, what does the education system look like in New York State? And what does it mean for our communities? As somebody who comes from the background of like really not trusting education, I really wanted to get into the education field in order to understand it more, in order to help our communities to understand it a little bit more too. One thing that I think is really important that we're doing right now, I think nationally, and I think we should be doing locally, is really understanding what Indigenous sovereignty in education looks like. We call it education sovereignty. It's something that is sort of an ongoing conversation, but how do we weave in our treaty laws with regard to our education system? How do we know what a different education looks like for us that really champions our languages and where we come from and our worldviews and our epistemologies? That's really what I'm passionate about. And that's why I think the association will do in the future that would really benefit our communities.